yeah, today I will take you in a quick journey to know more about performance testing. This is my journey so far. I have 11 years of experience as software testing and more than 7 years of experience as a performance tester. And yeah, and the number of certificates. So it's enough talk about me now, and let's get started. So speed is not a luxury thing. Speed is a feature. We are engaging better. We are engaging better with sites and services with instant response or with higher responses. And this leads to higher conversions and better user retentions. So let's stop for a moment and ask, what is conversion and what is user retention? Conversion is the idea of making a visitor to be a customer, or a potential customer to be a customer, to someone who is opening your application or website accidentally to become one of your customers. And for user retention, it's the idea of converting this customer to be a loyal customer. This, whenever he wants to buy something, he goes to your website. Of course, performance is not the only aspect in user retention. There is other aspects, but performance is one of them. And both higher conversions and better user retentions will lead to more revenue. You have more sales and you have a better revenue by time. And also it gives you a better reputation. It may be mouse marketing or by the sales figures. And all of the above can give you an edge or an edge over your competitors in the same business domain. So how important is performance testing? All systems performs differently under load. So and we notice this sometimes, that's the system that's experiencing higher load or unexpected load are responding poorly. So you have to take care of this. You have to be prepared for any load that's coming to your application or your service. Your release lifecycle is incomplete, or continuous integration is incomplete without performance or load testing. So automation testing is not enough. You have to make sure that the newly introduced code or fix does not make any performance degradation or does not affect your system performance. Performance and load testing save you money, and this, as any other software testing type, the later we found and fix the bug, the more you pay for it. And this in addition to if you have an outage, so you don't have enough sales for the day because of the outage, or if you have a contractual SLA, if you have an agreement with your customers to a certain performance figures. So if you break this, you pay for it. And some events are too important to disregard. And here I think the most famous thing that we can talk about is Black Friday for the e-commerce websites. Yeah, 2 years ago, Disney announced its new streaming service, Disney Plus. But on the launch day, high number of users weren't able to access the website to explore or even to register or to log in. And this is because the number of hits was higher than the expectation of Disney Plus, and they tweeted already about it. So you have to make sure that on your launch day, you are prepared for any unexpected events related to performance, of course. So let's see some statistics. So according to the reference in the presentation, Walmart and Amazon both observed 1% increase in earning for every 100 millisecond web page speed improvement. So whenever they improved 100 milliseconds, they have 1% more of earnings. Sales. And Yahoo saw a 9% increase in traffic for every 400 millisecond web page speed improvement. So for every 400 millisecond improvement, you have 9% increase in traffic. And also for Google loses 10% of their traffic for every additional 100 milliseconds. So when load time increases by 100 milliseconds, Google loses 20% of their traffic. Okay, let's talk about client-side performance. Let's talk about client-side performance. Yeah, when we talk about performance testing, what's coming in our head that we are doing performance testing for the backend or the performance of the executed code on the backend. So what about client side? And by time we realized that we know more about our system's back-end performance than we know about the client side of the client part or the client side of our system, what our users are really facing. This is the normal client, the normal client server model. When you request a web page or a URI from a server, they respond to you with the page itself. It may be HTML, ASPX, or whatever. A number of static resources like CSS, images, and JavaScript, font files, or whatever static resource is still exists. And according to Yahoo, that's around 80% of page load time is wasting or spending downloading these static resources. So you have to take care of this. For the past few years, we were using page load time as our key metric, which represent the user experience from the performance perspective. And by page load time, we mean that's the time it takes the page to be totally loaded. But now we have one more metric that we can use. This metric is more concerned about how long it takes to render or to display the most feature content of the website of the web or the web application. This metric is called TTI, or time to interact. And this metric is more concerned or highlight or pinpoints the most critical loading, critical moment in the page load. And this is tricky because this is not the same for every business domain. It will be different from e-commerce website to a restaurant website. So if we can have an examples for an e-commerce website, the most important for them is the search bar and the featured content. It can be the flash deals of today or the main deals or promotion they are providing. But this is different in a restaurant website because they want, what I want to access as a user is their menu and their registration or reservation form. And this is, yeah, that's why it's different from business domain to another. Having a look at this timelines, comparing the TTI or time to interact with the page load time, we will see in some cases it's so small to be noticed, like what's happened in case of IKEA.com. But in some other cases, it's really noticeable, like Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk or even JD.com. What this represents is that the user or the customer, he don't have to wait 12 seconds in case of Amazon.co.uk to get what he wants. He only have to wait to 1.8 seconds to have something he can take an action on. And the same if we can go to the JD.com. We don't have to wait for 20.4 seconds to get what you want. You have, after 3 seconds, you can take an action and go and continue your flow. Yeah, we can debate if 3 seconds as a TTI is a good number or not, but overall, you give your user the ability to take an action earlier so he can continue the flow of the website. He can go to the product page, he can start to add to cart. He don't want to wait all the time for page to be loaded to be able to take an action. So how can we analyze our front end? So when we were talking about performance testing, people thinking of our normal performance testing tools like JMeter or LoadRunner. So what we can use to analyze or assess our client side. You can use one of the following tools or the tools mentioned in the slide, or you can combine all of them. Google PageSpeed Insights, it's a tool which provided by Google. It's available online and it has an offline version through Chrome. You can use it. Google webpagetest.org is the same, and sitespeed.io, it's a local tool that you can install it locally, or you can use it via Docker. What those tools are doing, the tools is suggesting some changes to UI to speed up your process. Some suggestions like minification. You can minify JavaScript or CSS to reducing the size. You can change the image size or the type or the extension. And also you can move some of your script codes. And one of the issues known as render blocking JavaScript or render blocking CSS. You have some functions that take some time to render, which blocks everything around. You can move it to other place in the timeline, so you can start render and then execute your function in later during the page load. All these things can be achieved, or can be you can extract it from one of these reports. So what about performance testing types? And then here I mean the performance testing that most of us know, the back-end performance testing. What is the performance testing types? Performance testing as a word, it's kind of a big umbrella. It's having different types, not only one, but performance testing as a name, it may mean all of the following, all of the types that I am going to talk about, or the performance testing as a performance testing, one of the types. All the performance testing we are going to talk about have kind of a common actions or shared activities. So we are going to differentiate between them by the goal. What is the goal from every performance testing type? If we started with performance testing as a type, what we want from this, and what our main concern here is a response time. I only want a response time from this. It may be executed with 1 user or 100 users. The idea here is to know the response time of a page or of a function. The second type is the load testing. The load testing here, that I'm simulating load. It can be already exists, that our current load for our environment or our software, or unexpected load that's coming in the future or the near future. And in this test specifically, we try to mimic what's happening in the real life exactly by the test duration, the think time of the users. And also we are gathering some data from the backend, like server health, which includes processor percentage or the usage, RAM percentage. If the application is writing to the hard disk, I want it to have the disk I/O, and of course the network inputs and outputs. The third side is stress testing, and in this one, in one basic word, you want to know your maximum capacity. You want to know when your server will be out or will be down. We are raising the loads till we reach a point, we call it breakpoint, when the server is no longer available. And you execute this test to know what's your maximum capacity. That's, you know, when you want to add more servers or when you want to upgrade. Another type is SOC testing, which is also known as endurance testing. You run your performance testing or your load testing for a longer period of time. It may be 8 hours, 12 or 24 hours. The point here is you have to make sure that your application can sustain load for longer period of time. And we decide what the duration based on the site operating time. So if you have a site that serves from 9 to 9, so it's 12 hours, so our endurance will be for 12 hours. The last one is spike testing. And this is, some people confuse this with the load testing. The point in spike testing, that you have unexpected number of users that are requesting your site accidentally, that you have a normal load, or you can say it's a current load, and in a certain point of time you have an unexpected spike of users that may long for a period of time, and then you return to your normal load again. I can give an example of this. If you are e-commerce website and you have a flash deal for 1 hour, you're selling an iPhone with 15% discount. So people will actually using your website to, of course you have a regular customers, but some people will access your website to only benefit from this offer. So for the 1 hour, you have a spike for users more than you expected, or more than you are expecting, of course. It will last for 1 hour. It's a deal time. And then after that, you start going down to your normal load again. So how often you have to run, or you should run, your performance test? You should have your performance test. And here, of course, I mean one of the types that we mentioned before. If you introduce, modify, or enhance a code on your environment, you have to make sure that the newly introduced code or fixed code does not have any performance degradation. If you modify your current environment, if you moved from a region to a region, if you changed your cloud host, if you changed the type of your hard disk drive you are using in your environment, anything that can affect performance, you should re-execute all of your performance or load tests again. To identify the cause of production incident, if you have a production incident which is related to performance, you have to mimic what was happening on production to make sure that you can identify what was the problem and you fix it and re-execute again. And for some businesses, you have to do before the peak season. Not all business domain has a peak season, but for some business domains, if we can have it as Black Friday for e-commerce, you have to make sure that everything is okay and ready for this peak season. You have to make sure that your system and you are prepared for the coming load. And just as a quick note that you should expect more load year after year. You don't have to make the same load happen last year. You get the figures from last year and adding some additional percentage to make sure that you are covered. So what is the performance testing tools, or what performance testing tools you can use? One of the most famous is Apache JMeter. It's famous because it's open source tool. It's not hard to learn. And it has a big community. If you look on the internet for some issue you have, you will find some answer. Apache JMeter started as only for testing web application or websites, but now we have lots of plugins that can help you test an IoT performance. For IoT, you can do a performance or load testing on a database and other things. So it's also advancing by time. The second tool is Micro Focus Load Runner, which was known before as an HP load runner. This tool is mostly used by enterprises because it's a licensed tool, but you can still try it. You have an evaluation version for 50 users with all protocols that you can use. What advanced load runner, the edge for load runner over Apache JMeter that has plugin, if you can say the plugins for different protocols like Citrix, Siebel, and SAP, which is hard to do on other tools, and specifically it's hard to do on Apache JMeter. You have Gatling. Gatling is a code-based performance testing tool. It's perfectly integrated with most, if not all, of CI/CD pipelines. It's not newly introduced. I think it's there for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it's becoming more famous by time. We have IBM RPT, Rational Performance Tester. We have New Load, and we have other performance testing tools. You use the tool based on if you want a free or paid tool, and if it serves it will help you with your current application. So what is performance testing challenges? One of the challenges is correlation. Anyone who tried performance testing before, trying to script for a performance testing, know what correlation is. The point is, when we dealing with the server, we're dealing in a different way than automation. We are not using a browser. We are sending requests and receiving response from the server. So some values which was presented by the server is unique, and so we have to try to capture it and try to simulate it to be able to have a successful script and to be able to continue your flow. Some of these values may be session ID, maybe tokens from the application server. These things have to be captured and simulated to be able to continue your flow. Second challenge is choose the suitable test type. As we described or discussed this in a previous slide, we have a different performance testing times. Which one is suitable for your current situation? Is it load testing, or is it stress testing. Maybe it's we want to do an endurance testing. So you have to make sure that you really understand the use case you want to use to be able to choose the suitable test type. Third one is to picking the right tool. As we just saw that we have different tools, which one should be suitable? If we are always go to JMeter because it's free, or we have to get license for LoadRunner because we want some of the special protocols. So you have to be fully understand what your current technology stack is, and if it's suitable for which tool is more suitable for this than the other. And for all of this, we do what we call a proof of concept. We used to choose one of the tools, try to record one of the scenarios which may have a challenge, and make sure that it's working for it. If it's not, we move to another tool. The fourth point is to identify and track your SLA. SLA, it's a service level agreement. You have to identify your own SLAs, your own service level agreement. What is response time is suitable for you. If again, example, we chose that we decided that our response time will be 5 seconds and less. So if you have any tests with response time more than 5 seconds, these tests are failed. So we have to enhance and re-execute again. So we have to identify this, and also you have to check it. So version after version and release after a release, you have to make sure that you still stick to your SLA. And of course, this is more important if you have a contractual SLA, if you're giving your customers a written SLAs in the contract that our responses are not exceeding 10 seconds. So if we have more than 10 seconds, you pay for them a fine. So in this case, this is more important to identify and track. The last point is to include your performance testing activities in your workflow, in your CI/CD or your release pipeline. You have performance or load testing should be a part of your pipeline. So whenever you introduce a new code, you do your normal activities like the code review and the automation testing for the functional testing, and maybe running some security testing. But you have performance testing should be one of the points in this, or one of the stages in this workflow, because you have to make sure that there is no degradation based on the newly introduced code. And this is sometimes hard because sometimes we need some manual actions beside the automated action with performance. So here is the challenge. So yeah, we're almost done. So okay, from my side, I recommend these books for anybody who wants to know more about performance testing. The first book, The Art of Application Performance Testing, is mainly a concept book with some examples using JMeter, but it's mainly and it's really good book that you will benefit from. The next two books, High Performance Websites and Even Faster Website, those two books are more focused on the client side part of the performance. It's mainly for developers how to write optimized front end, but it also benefits people who want to know more about client-side performance. The last book is called Site Reliability Engineering, or SRE. This book was written by people from Google for how to manage and maintain a high reliability website or web application. This book is more about the whole stack rather than only the performance testing, but this is good to know. Yeah, we will have this, I think, later. So thank you.